Hello, fellow Trollops. Today I'm doing the third in the read-along of the Eustace Diamonds, an 1872 novel by Anthony Trollope. This is a read-along that's hosted by Steve Donoghue. I'll put a link to his videos as he goes through the novel in a far more abler fashion down below. This week it is chapters 40 to 60. I'll try and dispense with the last time on the Eustace Diamonds. I just assume you've been following very closely along with all the other chapters. It's basically everything. Everyone's fascinated with the diamonds. Lizzie Eustace has got these diamonds and she won't give them away no matter how much Lord Camperdown, representative of the Eustace family, wants to get them back from her. I was frustrated last week because we suddenly got this introduction at the end of all these brand new characters. Lizzie's kind of the hangers-on sleazy crowd of Lord George, Sir Griffin, Miss Roanoke, and her aunt Miss Carbuncle, and it continues along with this, and we get more of the kind of inner workings of Miss Roanoke and Sir Griffith get engaged, and they're as they get referred to as there's like it's the she bear and the bear, and they're just always fighting, and you know, it's Miss Carbuncle and Lord George are always trying to kind of keep them together, and we're just like, why are we doing all this stuff, Anthony Trollope? Why are we getting into this? We're far away from the love triangle of Lucy and Lizzie and Frank and the jewels and all that stuff. However, it does actually kind of set up well. This is the kind of crowd there's that it well sets up the kind of crowd that is around Lizzie for what happens next, which indeed is that Lizzie's room is broken into, and the box that she is jealously keeping the diamonds in, very Gollum-like, as very kind of like, oh, I must keep these diamonds. It's like, you know, she's obsessed with them. The room gets broken into very expertly. A cut is made, perfect cut is made to cut out where the lock is, and the door comes open, and they get off with the box without Lizzie even waking up. And it's like, dun dun dun, oh my god, the diamonds are gone. However, spoilers, but you know, if you're doing this read along with me, this isn't spoilers. No, the diamonds aren't gone, because Lizzie has had to keep them even closer. She kept them under her head, under her pillow, which is, it's like, I so much want to keep these diamonds. And now she's locked them in a drawer in her desk, because she, for some reason, well, there's reasons, she doesn't want to admit that she actually still has the diamonds, because I think there's a part of her that thinks, well, this way I can keep the diamonds and no one will know I have them, and she doesn't really think through the consequences of that. And so we get a whole bunch of stuff with the cops, and the cops are questioning, and a lot of suspicion goes on to Lord George, this fellow who basically, you know, a bunch of people above him died, and he's inherited his kind of lordship, and he's, you know, he's kind of penniless, and he's disreputable, and, you know, people are really suspecting him, and he's rather taking it on the chin, but Lizzie is quite infatuated with him. She really sees him as her corsair, which is a reference to Lord Byron, I think, wrote a poem, the corsair, but, you know, just a Byronic figure of just kind of like, you know, he's dangerous to know, and he's so virile and masculine, and you know, Lizzie's quite, there's a part of her that is quite into that kind of romantic stuff. Even though she's a very grasping, conniving character, she also has these notions as well. She's a very conflicted character that way. It's like, she's not like all just like cold calculation. She gets kind of caught up of like, she wants a man to dominate her, and we do like with her and Lord George and Roanoke and Griffith, we get these very kind of push-pull kind of power dynamic, kind of sexy power plays, sort of things, which I don't know if it gives you a bit of a reflection on the kind of the whole Lizzie, Frank, Lucy thing, where at least, you know, 2 points of that triangle, Frank and Lucy, you can somewhat admire, or you can see them as kind of semi-decent people. Frank kind of less so. And even Lizzie is somebody who who has her reasons. I feel, or maybe that is just getting snowed into the whole thing of she's such an evil character that there's a part of me that wants to protect her, becoming my own white knight, my own white knight there. Now, you know, Lizzie is really getting battered down by this, because this becomes very much kind of a police procedural in the middle of all this, where we get, is it Badger and Bunfit and Gauger, and they're, the cops are questioning Lizzie, and Lizzie is not a master criminal, a femme fatale in that sense of she's not holding up well under the pressure of all this, and she needs someone to tell. And indeed, you know, she's even before all this has happened, she wants to get Miss Carbuncle into her kind of confidence or thing, and she hangs the jewels around her in this kind of very vivid scene. This is before any of the heists happen, and it's like, wow, you're putting the jewels on Miss Carbuncle. It's like she's kind of a shady enough of a character that she might kind of like the feel of them on her, or at least you might give her ideas. And indeed, Lizzie does a very poor job of keeping anything kind of hidden, or anything kind of discreet. So there's plenty of suspects for like who organized this first initial heist. And indeed, after she's confided finally to Lord George, because she has to confide to someone, she can't keep the secret on her own. It's too much of a burden, that she indeed still does have the jewels. And he advises her to leave the jewels, like when you're going out, leave the jewels here, but when you're in the house, keep the jewels on yourself, because that way the cops won't, they won't dare search you. We're very much class society, and one does not just say, okay, Lady Eustace, go with a female police officer over here for a pat down and strip search. That ain't going to happen. Not without, major legal trouble, which would give her extra time to be able to discreetly stuff. It's the privilege of position. But she tells Lord George that, she's got it. And he says, okay, keep it on your person when you're in the thing, but when you go out, put it somewhere safe and stuff like that. And so they do. And like the very first time that happens, they come back and her room has been broken into again, and the her maid it's lovely, Patience Crabstick. I love these names. Patience Crabstick. Is gone, and so are the jewels, and so is Patient Crabstick's best clothing. So she's obviously been in on the job. Was she in on the first job? Who knows? But we're told by the end of this thing that indeed the jewels are now safe and sound, locked up in some other people's thing, which I'll have to check on the details on that. However, and Lucy does not take this well. Like, this is not a woman who has self-control. She has a horrible reaction to it. And I think it must be pretty apparent to anyone there. It's like, you had the jewels after the first heist, but now you don't have the jewels, because holy crap, you just had a horrible, I just think of her going completely white as a sheet and just kind of collapsing. And, that is funny. Now, it's interesting in all of this that Lizzie confides to Lord George, this disreputable, Byronic corsair character, about what is actually happening. To Frank, that is her other side. That is the side of, I'm trying to present my respectability. And to him, she wants him to use him for kind of legal stuff. She gives him the fake story that, oh, I didn't know anything about the jewels were indeed taken out the first time. And everyone is persecuting me, and I'm just this honest woman. She's totally using him that way. So it's interesting. There's that differentiation. It's like, I can still see Lizzie going, well, oh, do I want to go with a Byronic kind of Lord George, the corsair, who will protect me from my own kind of nastiness, or do I want to go with someone like Frank, who's going to keep, will get me into kind of more respectable standing in the society? And there's definitely that. And depending on what her instances are, she's always kind of shifting and playing the thing. I can see her jumping from one ship to another. It's all very it's all very opportunistic, if not calculated. It's calculated, but calculated in that way of, she's not thinking the long game. She's just thinking of, how do I make it past the next day? How do I make it past the next hurdle? She's not thinking of long term stuff like that. Well, at the same time, Lucy, the angelic penniless governess who accepted Frank's proposal of marriage and stood up from against Lord Fawn, who's pissed off at him because obviously he's being basically raked over the coals by Frank in Lizzie Eustace's stead. And she's gone off to live with Lady Linlithgow. She's finding, oh, Frank is basically slowly kind of icing her out. He's less and less letters, less and less. Well, there hasn't been any contact because Lady Linlithgow doesn't want any callers, and Frank hasn't particularly pushed the issue, or they haven't, there hasn't been any particular urgency, it seems now, to get that. And by the end of this, Lucy has heard through various Lady Linlithgow, who very bluntly kind of puts forward, look, yeah, Frank's been found, making love to Lizzie. Basically, you're screwed. The whole Andy Gowran poking out and catching Frank and Lizzie, kissing is like cousins. It's like, you're not cousins. That indeed has come home to roost, and indeed, the Fawn females have brought Andy Gowran to testify to Lord Fawn, who is he's a weak man. He is a weak man, and he is not up to all this, and he's not even up to asking Andy Gowran like the straight goods, like, tell me what happened. And if he did that, I mean, yes, there'd be unpleasantness, but he would actually have some ammunition on his side to maybe get out of this. This is again, I was talking about last time, like, oh, I don't know the politics I can kind of figure out, but like the social niceties of, like, how do you navigate this situation? How do you get out from Lizzie's grasp? Because Lizzie still wants to torture Lord Fawn for, it's like, you don't want me? Well, then I'm going to make you have to bow to me. It's like, oh man. And there's a part of that's got to be like kind of a female revenge for, this kind of a world where men have the majority of the cards, and this is a female character that's sticking it to this highly entitled but very cowardly guy who's completely obsessed with his own appearance. And indeed, this whole thing between Lord Fawn and Lady Eustace, for Lizzie Eustace, has taken on this quite a public thing. There's basically kind of party lines of Frank as a conservative, and the Conservative Party guys are definitely against Lord Fawn, who is a liberal guy. So there's a political side of splitting down party lines. However, there's just like the Lizzyites and the anti-Lizzyites. And talking about, like, other frustrations, it's like that Lady Glencora kind of gets the wrong end of the stick and feels that, like, oh, Lady Eustace is being ill-used by Lord Fawn, and of course she should have the diamonds and all this stuff. And you can see from a distance, it's like, oh yeah, Lizzie is a good. It's like we know as the reader what kind of a woman she is. But Lady Glencora, who's a very smart woman, who I'm sure I'm gonna hear more about, and probably gonna go back and read Can You Forgive Her, the very first of these the Palliser novels. She's got like the wrong end of the stick, so she uses her political influence, her social political influence within these things to kind of shove at poor Lord Fawn, who's like powerless to basically say, buzz off, you know nothing about this situation. He can't do it because she's married to the head, basically the big guy, the Palliser of the Liberals, and so he feels like he has to kind of tread very lightly, because basically his standing comes from his political standing and his public persona and stuff like that. So it's funny that Trollope does a really good way of just integrating what is this kind of very kind of small, sordid little thing, but how it's exploded out into this giant public conflagration, which is, Fawn's, worst nightmare in all this. So, and indeed, by the end of the book, this has gotten so public that Lucy is basically given up the ghost. She's like, yeah, Frank is obviously going to go off with Lizzie. I am penniless. Lizzie has got the money. There's all these rumors. He's not paying attention to me. There's yet another echo of a letter. She's written him a letter. And while Frank had written her a letter, the proposal letter, and he paused on it for a little bit and then dropped it and felt like, I I've made a decision, which of course turns out not to be. Lizzie, on the other hand, has written this letter, which is like basically like, yeah, obviously we shouldn't consider ourselves engaged anymore. But all the stuff happens, and she gets to the point where it's like, I don't even want to say his name. I don't want to even think about him. That she destroys the letter by the end, in chapter 60 here. She just destroys the letter. And I think there's the kind of the things of the genres in here, and I think, or the tropes that really work well. And I think it's writing good characters and them being ill-used is like great, because that bonds you to like, because like sometimes like good characters like Lucy, you can like, oh, she's a bit milquetoast, or, you know, it's hard to kind of get invested in her because she's so good in a way, and I'm not a good person. Just slip that in there. You know, that having something really test a kind of a character like that, really dig in the knives. It's like, that's a way of kind of like, oh, I can feel that pain. I can feel that disappointment, that betrayal, and that makes her more engaging, more human. So, yes, well, there's many frustrations. I felt like there's a bit of a, I was really caught up in a lull of, I don't want to be with, Lord George and Sir Griffith and Roanoke and Carbuncle. You know, it's like, I can see now why we needed that, because it's a perfect that in there is a perfect, there's a perfect, theft mystery kind of group. You know, all the people, they're all suspects. They're all morally suspect. You know, you can suspect all of them. They all could have done something wrong. So that's the kind of people that you want in a mystery, which is maybe why sometimes I'm not as much interested in mysteries, because like, I much more want to go back to someone like Frank, who, though, well, morally ambiguous, and is like, you know, he's looking to see, you know, do I want true love, or do I want to have, like, you know, an advancement in the world? He's much more of a relatable character that way, at least to me. I guess that's, I guess, I don't know if he's my hero. He actually didn't appear a great amount in this section. There's little tastes of him, but he was largely sidelined. So it'll be interesting to see for the last chapters 61 to 80 of this read along, whether we'll circle back around to that, and you know, what happened to the diamonds? Who did organize these heists? I'm terrible at mystery, so I've got no clue. Like, did Camperdown decide to like try and get them away? Is it one of the people in the party? It would be like, in some ways, it would be really frustrating if it was someone outside of this group of suspects here, of the hangers, the sleazy party around Lizzie. If it turns out not to be them, then I'll be like, oh man, that was just an entire waste of time. Other than, I guess, illuminating further Lizzie's character, which yeah. I guess that could be the case. All right, I've nattered. I've done my nattering. This is late. I'm doing this on Sunday. Hopefully I'll get it posted today. I'm going to go watch Steve Donoghue and see what he had to say, and finish. And then I'll meet you back next week for the final bit. All right, more videos later.